All right, lead heads. We are back, fresh from our AK Koncepts rifle course at Royal Range, USA in Nashville, Tennessee. And we had a blast. If you lead heads that attended, you know what I'm talking about. And if you lead heads that didn't, you missed out. We had an amazing time. 212 training group, Jared Seagraves, Aaron Keener, and Kyle Moore, part of the 212 training group. They came down and they put on one hell of a defensive rifle training course there at Royal Range, USA. And then Brian Keeney with Occam Defense Solutions. You guys know Brian. He was there also, and he added to the curriculum with his armorer's portion of that 2-day course there that we just wrapped up. So this episode is going to have some interviews that we did during the course there at Royal Range, USA. We're talking about the course curriculum with the guys at 212 Training Group. We get some of the students on, talk about their experiences, and then we get Brian on to talk about his armor's portion. And we're joined by a couple of surprise guests, so you'll hear who they are as you get into this episode. But as always, make sure you go and thank those that make this show possible. Our good buddies at Kel-Tec Weapons, keltecweapons.com. Go show them some love on their social media, their Facebook, and let them know that you're a lead head. As we made an announcement a couple episodes ago, go show our new sponsors, Nemo Arms, a lot of love. Let them know how much you appreciate them jumping on board and sponsoring the show for you guys. Seal One, their CLP, complete gun care products, completely green, safe for the environment, safe for you, non-toxic. After we got done running that course, I gave my ODS 1775 a nice bath in my Seal 1 CLP, and it really cleans and protects. It does the job. Go check them out at seal1.net and use the code LEADHEAD, and you're going to get a nice big 25% discount from Seal 1 on your order there. Mission First Tactical, they sponsored some really nice custom AK Koncepts dump trays for us. You've seen our AK Koncepts dump trays they've done, our regular logo Talking Lead dump trays and tactical wallets. Go check them out at missionfirsttactical.com. And, of course, they've got the awesome minimalist butt stocks there for your AR-15s, the hand guards, the muzzle devices, and their holsters. So go check them out, Mission First Tactical, and use that code again, LEADHEAD, at Mission First Tactical, and you're going to get a nice big 20% off your order from them. And we had some awesome T-shirts made up for this class, and we got to thank our buddy Danny over at Dipstick Coatings, formerly Dipstick Hydrographics. You guys know them as Dipstick Dizzy Whizzle was our pet name for them. But they kind of got out of the hydro dipping, and they're concentrating more on the T-shirts, promotional items where you can get custom logos and things like that. So they did a really awesome T-shirt for us for the Talking Lead AK Koncepts course, and we've got pictures of those posted on our social media. So go show them some love at dip123.com. And if you guys got an event coming up, special event or something like that, Danny can take care of you guys there with all your promotional and custom needs. So this is going to be a 2-part series, lead heads. We did some interviews while we were there at the range on site with the instructors, some of the students, and we had some special guests. But we also did an after-action report episode. And that's going to follow this episode. So episode 3, I think this is 385, so episode 386 will be part 2 with the after-action report episode. So make sure you keep an eye out for that one when it drops as well. But without further ado, let's get into our AK Koncepts course there in Nashville, Tennessee at Royal Range.
How long did we do?
Oh, just relax.
You got a script? You want me to read something?
He has to have a schedule.
No, I just have to know that we have.
You're going to hate my show then.
This
Turn
is
your mic on there.
Let's do this.
So these are directional, so you got to get up on them.
All right. Yep.
So you can't be back here. If you want to pick it up and hold it, you can do that too.
That's a cute mic stand. I like that.
Yeah, I laced them with COVID.
All right.
All right, let's start with Jared. Let me get your levels.
Check 1, 2, test 1, 2.
And
Can
just
you hear
talk
me?
your normal inside voice.
Okay, I'm going to talk my normal inside voice, and we've got I don't know to allocate how long to this, Aaron.
What are you talking about, man?
I don't know the schedule for the rest of the afternoon.
How long do you want to talk about this?
We're gonna do this during lunch.
Okay, can we chew and not
we
be
can
heard
eat.
in the mic?
No, I
okay.
mean it's fine. It just adds to the.
So Jimmy
Yeah.
John's is out of the question while we talk.
Is it?
No, it's
No?
not.
Okay.
We
So,
eat Jimmy John's. We're gonna feed our faces while we're doing this.
So like,
feed our faces.
what do we get? A little chip
What'd you
crunchy.
get?
I want to get
Oh,
this.
You
I
ordered
for
for
you.
me.
That's right, I did. What did you get?
You
I
ordered,
don't know.
You ordered for me.
You
Well, I hope
ordered
you
it.
like it.
I like anything. I don't care. I'm not picky.
Check 1 2 1 2. Check Lefty's mic. Check. All right. So we're gonna do an episode. So when you drag shit on the table, that's not good.
Let's see that.
Yeah,
Okay, no more dragging.
that's fine.
No more dragging.
Okay, we'll figure all that out through the show. So, Lead Heads, we are back. It's a special episode. We are day 2. You've heard us talk about this course that we've been having at Royal Range USA, the AK Koncepts course with 212 Training Group. Our good buddy and fellow lead head, Jared Seagraves.
Glad to be here. This is a phenomenal place, Marty. Thanks for putting this together. We couldn't.
I knew you would be impressed with it.
Oh, it's incredible.
I just got to get people here so they
Yes.
can actually. You just can't. Words can't describe it.
And not just the facility itself. The facility is beautiful. The people here make
Yes.
this place.
Absolutely.
The staff, Art, everyone we've met are just here to serve and make everyone's experience at this place better. So that's what makes the place, the people.
Very good, and that's the experience I was hoping that you would get from it. So,
nailed it.
Thank you for conveying that.
Yeah.
Helping me convey that. But yes, it's been day 2. We're at lunch right now. We're at lunch break. We still got a half a day to go, so we're going to try to get as much in as we can here for this episode of the AK Corner with Jared. And Jared, you brought in a couple of special operators with you here to help you with this training course. So, why don't you introduce those for us?
I brought the guys that I chase as far as in shooting and just being a good man. Just phenomenal people. Kyle Moore from Arizona. Kyle and I met at Red October in 19, I think.
Is that the last one they had?
That's the last one they had. So we met there, and we're both shooting for Occam, and was just super pumped to have him come out and help us out. And then my sidekick, my boy Aaron Keener, who is also from Texas, from McKinney, Texas.
Very cool.
And he and I do a lot of teaching together and bounce all over the place, and we have a great time doing it.
Now here you've got this thing for fast cars too, Aaron.
Yeah, no, that's kind of a side hobby.
Yeah, we might want to talk about that though. It sounds pretty interesting.
It's taken a little bit of a backseat to the firearms world in recent years, but
No pun intended.
yeah,
Backseat.
No, his cars don't have back seats. That's
yeah,
not a front.
no,
I
it's
have to
too
ask
soon.
you.
They got NOS right back there, right?
So which hobby's more expensive, Aaron?
Both. They're both
Equally.
They're both as expensive as you want them to be.
Equally bank draining.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I've had a couple of requests from listeners. They want to talk more about the competition shooting side of with AKs, and I know that both of you, all three of you actually, are competitive shooters with the AK, and specifically you've been using recently the Occam Defense Solutions. Brian Keeney with 1775. He should be joining us. He's out right now. Brian is here. He's my consummate host here on the AK Corner, so I'm sure he'll join us here eventually. But I want to talk about that. But first, I want to talk about the course that we've been doing here in Nashville. So, Jared, just kind of give us a high-level overview of what we've done up until this point, and then where we're headed for the rest of the day.
So yesterday we spent the day really kind of developing a baseline for each one of our shooters, and visiting principles of the fundamentals of shooting. It doesn't matter what platform you're running, the AK or handgun or AR. It doesn't matter. All those apply, and basically just diving deeper into the principles behind that and understanding the why. And one thing we like to explore is you always field questions about, well, what about this method of running a trigger, or what about this stance, or this optic or things. So there's so many opinions and theories and principles out there, and we like to explore all those things, but we also want to convey what is fundamentally sound and what's efficient and what works. So yesterday we tried to establish baselines for everybody. What's your current level of performance? And there's variation within every class as far as the student base of levels of performance, but we try to design a curriculum that helps each and every individual, one, figure out where they're at, and two, figure out what little facets they need to build on, and then see progress, and we see progress from day one and day two. And honestly, what makes this whole curriculum game a little tough is we have 6 days of stuff that we want to cram in 2 days, and it can be a little overwhelming.
Well, especially for this one too, because we threw a little curveball in with it too, where we added an armorer's portion to it.
Yeah, but that's been spectacular because
absolutely, yeah.
And what was interesting for us is we've never ran a rifle class like this in an indoor range where we've had limitations on distance as far as zeroing, things like that. But it was still phenomenal. And what the armorer's portion allowed us to do, and I was honestly really thankful for this, is we had a breakout session where we split the class in half, and for hour and a half blocks, we would send half the class in with Brian, and they would dissect that rifle and learn how to service that rifle and learn inside and out, and the other half would stay on the range, and we would work, skill sets and things like that. So then we would switch out, and that's been really beneficial to the pacing of this class. It's allowed us to pack more things in and layer more things on.
Well, I think for it to be an AK class, you really need to throw the the gunsmithing, the armorer's portion in there for the user to get to know the rifle, because a lot of people are afraid of the AK innards. They're afraid to pop that top and and then seeing all that stuff. It's not an AR, it's not their AR, which a lot of these people can just do ARs blind, But I think that, and some people who think they know, the insides of it. I mean, Brian went into some great detail. He even broke down the bolt, breaking the bolt down in its parts and components and then reassembling it.
Right.
So
getting
the
to know
detail, the detail of your rifle when you have a malfunction and being able to pinpoint it, that's knowing your parts.
Right.
Where to start looking, where to investigate. So, I think this is the armor's, was like perfect for this type of course that we're doing, specific AK-47.
And that specificity within that platform is a primary focus, of course, but we focus on two things. We're focusing on the gun and then the development of ourselves as shooters. And one of the things that we hope that we do a good job conveying is that every single thing we ask our students to do, they understand the why, and then they understand how they can utilize that in their own practice to analyze their performance and be a better self-evaluator.
Yeah.
And that's one of our major goals, and I think they're going to take a lot of ways. That's our goal anyway.
Well, I mean, after so day one, you kind of brought everybody together, and then just kind of going over and asking if they had questions, and doing kind of a debrief and what you learned and what whys, and go over that, where you just kind of bring the end of the day together and then let everybody reflect on what they've learned that day.
Yeah, that term right there is the most important thing, because the reflective process, and it doesn't matter if it's shooting or a sport or your performance at your current job, if you don't reflect on events or your performances and evaluate yourself or evaluate someone else, we do that by sitting down and replaying it in our brain, and really, even if it means taking notes. And a lot of people aren't note takers, but a lot of this information can be overwhelming and you almost get sensory overload. But the way to do that is do a brain dump and your reflective process. I mean, what do you guys think as far as the value of that, Aaron and Kyle?
Yeah, we do that. We do that every class. I think this one's unique because we have some of that, the armorer's block, and we're splitting it up. And I think it's really helpful to hear the students' reactions and what they're taking away. A lot of times it's stuff that we didn't deliberately teach or deliberately do a drill on. This is individually what they see themselves as like, here's what I took away from that. Here's what I need to focus on in my personal training when I take this back home. Here's what I did well. And just those takeaways, they really help the whole class think about just their perspective or a unique perspective, and it helps us as instructors, with curriculum in the future as well.
Well, and it does too, because this isn't a tactics course. This is a skills builder. And so we're not going to say that this is the one and only way to do something. We're going to give you a bunch of tools.
I noticed that you guys have kind of started it off like that. You let people know, it's like, hey, there's more than one way to do this.
Absolutely, because what applies here and what applies elsewhere in the world under different circumstances may not be the same. So why not give them the full picture and let them choose what is most applicable in their life and their needs.
Right.
And so that reflection period at the end of the class is really nice for us as instructors, because we get that direct feedback, because some of these techniques may not necessarily be applicable to the general civilian.
Yeah.
And so why waste our time driving those home?
I did notice that there are a few techniques that you guys are you're asking people to try in this, and the biggest one that I saw that most people are doing is on the reload. They're doing the rake.
Sure.
Reload. You guys have a little different take on that, so I wanted to talk about that too, as far as the mag reloads on the AK-47, and people have different grips too. Like I've done some IDF training and courses, and they taught me the 5 points of contact and all that. But I can see that the drills that we're running through different scenarios, a different grip. It's okay to change your grip because you need that extra stability. So talk about some of those things that you guys are kind of with the AK-47 specifically, that you're asking people to really try our style on this.
Yeah. So my approach to the AK platform itself is maybe a little different than Kyle's, and I think Aaron and I are much in the same boat. We're relatively new to it. I've been on it for a couple of years now, and just like Brian and I have discussed this a number of times, bringing new shooters to the AK, the intimidation aspect is, the safety's hard to run and it's clunky, and the reloads are weird. Well, that's the two manipulations that are unique to it, and there are tons of ways to reload the AK, and that chop with the magazine.
The chop, I was calling it the rake.
The
rake,
chop, whatever it's called. I honestly don't even know what the damn thing's called.
So basically, it's when you go for a reload, you still have the mag in. You come in, you hit the mag release and the mag with the new mag, and knock it out.
Right,
and
which
then you
works.
rock it in.
Which works. No one. We're not contesting that or saying you shouldn't do it. The biggest thing is, where did that come from? And it came from the Russians wearing big mittens that they don't have the dexterity or their thumb and their fingers to do that, so they had to have that tool to do it, and that's a
makes perfect sense as to why they would teach that type of reload.
It's a viable reload, but there are other options.
But that's really also, that
so lead heads, we're going to eat while we're recording, so if you hear us munching and paper rattling, just ignore us. We're eating.
We have to remember too that just in the last 5 years, the American AK has really evolved. And
yes.
our techniques and amplifications should as well. I remember the first Red October. Everybody there was running a very basic wooden stocked comm block weapon. It was really an opportunity for AK enthusiasts to come together and show off their weaponry. And
kind of authentic type thing.
Yeah, exactly. More for the purists. And there were some of us that were making minor modifications and seeking out certain products that were available, but in a limited capacity. And I think that match specifically has really helped perpetuate the evolution of the American AK, because it gave people the opportunity to come out and run their weapons and find the limitations and start brainstorming on solutions to those limitations. And so therefore our techniques of operation need to evolve with that platform as well.
Kyle, how many Red Octobers have you done?
I've been to every Red October.
Okay. How many has there been? How
I
long
think
have
there's
they
been
doing it?
5 now.
About 5 years.
Yeah.
And of course we missed
4. I've been to 4. So if there's been more,
Right.
Yeah.
But then we missed last year.
Right.
It was canceled last year
Yep.
because of the COVID.
Well, and
Or whatever it
originally it
was.
was being held at the Southern Utah Practical Shooting Club in St. George, which is a little bit off the beaten path. You know, in the last couple of years, they moved to the Pro Gun Club there in Las Vegas, which is a fantastic range, but it definitely brought about a different crowd because it became more convenient for these individuals to fly in and get to the range rather than flying in and then driving 3 hours to get there. So it's that match has evolved, the AK has evolved, our techniques have evolved, and that's really what we're doing here today is we're just showing here is the full picture. Pick what's applicable for your needs.
But and that goes back to what Jared mentioned at first, which is understand why, right? And people do the where they're chopping the magazine with the fresh ammo supply to do the reload. Well, there's a reason that was created, right? And that was because that's how the Russians started doing it, like we said. But there are, like Kyle was saying, things have evolved, and we've started to look for efficiencies in our movements, efficiencies in the patterns in which we operate the AK as it's evolved, and there's other options now. So understand why you do it a certain way and try different ways, and that's what we're really trying to expose the students just to viable options that we've discovered.
So we were talking about the chop. So talk about your method. Just paint a picture for our listeners on how you guys go about a reload.
Well, so here's the beauty of it, right? I've learned every wrong way to reload an AK over the years. And I find that, especially under stress, the easiest way to go about it is to just discard the magazine that you're reloading. Don't worry about trying to retain that thing. Just get it out of there. But do so in transitioning from the grip on your weapon with your support hand to retrieving that magazine. So again, I'm not going to sit here and say this is the best way or the only way, but the way I prefer to reload an AK, when it goes dry and it goes click rather than bang, reach up, flick the magazine out, retrieve a second mag, insert it, and get back at it. The other way to go about it would be to, so Jared's giving me hand signals here, but I use my thumb in lieu of another mag. And the reason for that is that for competitive application, grabbing that second mag and then trying to fumble to chop it out, I've had that fail miserably. And there's also added movements in there that are unnecessary. They cost us time. Time is money. So I use my thumb, the inner webbing on my thumb, as if it were that mag. As my support hand's coming off the weapon, I catch that release inside of the web, slam it forward. I don't grip the mag. I'm just activating the release.
Right.
Retrieving a second mag, putting it in the weapon, and proceeding. Now, the other way to go about it, which I actually think is more positive, but in my experience on a shot timer has proven to be just a little bit slower, is to retrieve your second mag first, and then with the same motion, use your thumb, not the mag, to release the mag that's currently in the weapon, because that motion and then inserting the second mag is identical. So it's a very positive insertion, because the biggest problem that we see upon reloads in AKs with students is they jam the mag in, they don't seat it properly, and then they don't pick up a round. And it's not nearly as friendly as an AR.
So with that method, let's just go back to the, what would you call it? The rake, what'd you call it?
Chop.
Chop. The chop method, you're going a lot further out with it.
Well, yeah.
And then with your method, the thumb, the web of the thumb, you're not going as far, so you're closer to the reload position anyway.
Well, yeah. So
is that why you're saying it's quicker?
Well, I'm saying it's quicker because when you're releasing your support hand off of the weapon, it's already moving from the fore of the weapon to your belt, and that mag happens to be en route. So you may as well discard it on your way to retrieve a second mag. If you're using your second mag, to chop the first one out, you're removing it in a vertical position from your belt. You're rotating it to a horizontal position to rake the first mag out of the weapon. Then you're returning it to a vertical position and trying to orient this, and oftentimes under movement. So you're compounding these movements on top of one another. Right. I'm not saying it doesn't work or it doesn't have an application, but in a competitive sense, I think it's inferior to other methods.
Yeah.
We were joking about this yesterday. I own one AR, and it's chambered in 7.62 by 39. I'm very much an AK guy, always have been. And so, again, I've watched every video there is on YouTube. I've tried every method there is out there, and and I run myself on the shot timer to determine what is fastest, because that, in my world, that's what's important.
So there's one thing I gotta add to that. So a lot of people will say, well, this is a gross motor skill. This is a bigger movement, and using your thumb is a much finer motor skill, and you're not gonna be able to do that under stress. So, Jared or Kyle, what's our take on that? Just being able to operate that under stress with a fine motor skill versus losing all dexterity.
Well, see, my argument there would be we always know where our thumb is. That's not going anywhere, right? That's easy to identify and to manipulate.
It's a known constant.
That's exactly right. Why not use it? We use them every single day. The only, I run an Occam, which is great for mitigating heat, and with other products that were out formerly, a left-handed glove, if you're a right-handed shooter, was necessary so as to prevent burning yourself.
Right.
That's no longer the case with the Occam. However, I still wear a left-handed glove because there are sharp edges on it, and using the webbing of my hand hundreds of times in drills can start to wear on you.
Yeah. Kind of has little girly hands too.
Yeah, it's my little girly hands. That's what it is. And
it's pampered.
And charging the weapon as well. Especially if you're running something like a Krebs safety that's protruding off the side of the weapon, and you're reaching under, it's very easy to hurt your hand, which isn't the end of the world, but we can prevent that with just a little bit of PPE.
As far as the class goes, did you go over what we've covered so far?
Briefly.
The curriculum of what, if we do this again, hopefully, we've got several lead heads here. We got a lot of listeners that are here, a lot of the Occam Defense customers, which happen to be lead heads also. You guys have seen who participate on social media. PPRN is here. John Adams III is here. Jerry Black is here. FPS Murdoch is here. I'm trying to remember everybody's Instagram name so they would know. But we got several of you listeners that did take this class and participate, and I greatly appreciate that. And
yeah, we can't make it
we've
happen
had a good
without
time
them, for sure.
Right.
But yeah, so yesterday was about establishing a baseline, just running the gun, manipulations, reloads, proactive reloads or tack reloads, whatever you want to call those, and just basically getting people comfortable with, because some of these guys haven't spent a lot of time behind the AK, and that's of course why they're here. Some of them have. And we're approaching some things slightly from a different angle than maybe what they've heard before, and they seem to be appreciative of that. Today we've spent a little bit more time of basic movement, basic movement with the rifle on the range, footwork, things like that, creating a stable platform, and a lot of people have done those things before, but we're really trying to get people to analyze themselves and understand that a lot of times when we add simple movement into things, that some of the fundamentals of the shooting actually start to kind of break down and go away, and a lot of people ignore that, or they don't even detect it themselves. So we're trying to get people to focus on what they are creating when they go through these drills. Not only what the paper's telling them, but analyzing their foundation and their them as a shooter and how that's integrating with the gun itself. And one of the best ways we could do that is maybe get one of these guys up here right now and kind of get some of their insight. Maybe we could get Paul. What do you think?
I think we should. Let's do
Paul.
that. Let's grab a couple of listeners here.
Okay, so I'm going to introduce Paul Phillips to you guys, and he's going to throw the headphones on and the mic here, and Marty, you can just ask him.
No, you both can talk.
Oh, okay.
He doesn't need the headphones. He's fine. He's good.
Okay.
Yeah, just get into the mic when you talk there.
So, guys, this is Paul Fellows. He drove up from Texas, he and his wife, and they're doing an awesome job. But Marty was kind of curious as to, the pacing of the course, and I just wanted to kind of get your thoughts on it real quick, if you don't mind sharing.
Right. The overall experience of it has been great. As far as being taught from basics of how to hold it, how to stand, your trigger positions, your resets, all the way through your movements, and then finishing it up with your follow-through. All reinforcing proper mechanics of actually how to operate this platform.
So how would you compare the? I know you've taken other courses and you've taken Jared's course before too. What would you say is the key like takeaway factor from this that maybe you didn't get from the other ones?
You know, taking Jared's courses before, a lot of these drills are similar with the handgun platform, so that has been an easier transition with all that stuff. Taking away from it is actually shouldering the rifle and being able to move with it versus your little bitty in-hand pistol.
All right. Now you're a relatively new listener to the show, is that right? Since
About
Brian,
June, July, yeah.
Yeah. So and thank you for that.
Almost
We
a year,
appreciate
yeah.
it. And you've been consummate listener to the AK Corner,
Right.
And we appreciate that. What would you say as far as the AK Corner? What's something new that you would like us to cover or talk about, or maybe have a special guest?
New stuff. I hadn't even thought about that. I just wait and listen and see what comes up next time.
Yeah, you just
Yeah.
wait and you trust us to bring you some good shit.
You don't know what you don't know. So, yeah.
Very good, very good. So thank you for coming in. We appreciate it, man. And would you come to another one of these if we held another one?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, I would love to get more of that, even on a different platform. Royal Range has been great. The whole thing has been great.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, outdoors would probably be ideal for the next one, but this has been good. I mean, like Jared said, I mean, it creates a new environment for you guys, new training environment.
It actually gives us more opportunities, right? I mean, yes, we're a little limited on space, but it forces us to work and work on our offsets and and holdovers as well.
So also joining us here in class, we got another long-time lead head, probably one of the originals, right?
Yeah,
You've been listening
absolutely,
since day one, haven't you?
Episode 1, yes, sir.
Jerry Black, ladies and gentlemen.
Wow, the man, the legend.
The man, the
I don't know
legend.
about all that.
I mean, you've won many of our contests and giveaways.
Yeah, I got an AK pistol.
Yeah,
Got magazines. Yeah,
right. I mean, we take care of our listeners, don't
Yes,
we?
you do.
You were running some of those mags today. I tried to steal a couple of them from you in class. But. So what's your take? Is this the first defensive rifle course that you've ever taken?
This is the first rifle course I've taken, yes. And the one thing that stands out the most is it really reminds you of how much you don't know that you think you know.
Mm-hmm.
So-
Didn't one of you just say that? I don't. You don't know what you don't know until.
That's right.
Yeah. So what would you say? You're relatively new AK owner operator.
Yeah, about 4 years now, yeah.
Okay.
So pretty new.
Yeah. You bought a new one, didn't you, for this? Or,
Yes.
yeah.
While I was
you
here.
bought one while you were here, but the one that you're running, how long have you had that one?
I've had that one about 4 years.
That's the one you've had about 4
Yes.
years? Okay. So in those 4 years that you've been running that, and then compared to what you've learned in this class, what new have you learned that you're just like, oh, how did I not know that?
That's uncomparable. It really is. I learned that there's a huge difference in stance, especially where I put my elbows. That's huge. From more of a precision rifle background to more of a fighting rifle that this is.
Mm-hmm.
It's very different in stance. It's different in sight picture, everything.
Your lower body, your upper body, everything.
Everything, yeah.
Yeah. I made that comment earlier about how my grip on the rifle,
I have to
in certain
unlearn.
circumstances it's good, but with what they're teaching here, it's okay to change that and adapt.
Right. You have to unlearn what you know to relearn how to run this.
And that's hard.
You
It's
know,
hard to do.
I have a question for you. What features provoked your recent purchase, your new purchase?
Where do I start?
Yeah, what was your last platform lacking that this one offers?
You're talking about between the AKs?
Between the one you're running today and the one you purchased yesterday.
Okay, so one of the biggest features is weight.
Okay.
So the Occam is so much lighter. I mean, it almost feels about half of the weight as what my Century Arms does. So that's one thing. And plus, watching some of these guys in the class and seeing how accurate that thing is. And I know that there's a lot to be said, and we covered some of it today, but you have to have the differences between a mediocre gun and a good gun. And what I've got is a mediocre gun, and I'm upgrading to a good gun. And that's not everything, but put that together with what we've learned here this weekend, and it makes all the difference in the world.
Very well put. I like that. Indeed. So, you have any questions for for Jerry? No.
I didn't hear what they asked.
Yeah, you were gone, so they were good questions. They were good. Jerry, thank you so much, and we appreciate your support, buddy.
Thank you.
And look forward to having you at the next class. All right, sit down. Come on up. Tell us who you are, what you do. Just
My name's Joe. I'm a mechanic by trade.
Joe the mechanic.
I fix.
He's one of those kind of mechanics.
I don't know what that means. Usually it's those kinds of engineer. Oh, that, okay.
So you've taken several courses, rifle courses, pistol courses, right?
I'm a multi-tactical response alumni, and I've taken a Sentinel Concepts class, and my girlfriend's a firearms instructor at a local range. I've taken multiple classes there. So
Perfect. So you've got a lot of different experiences. Compare what you've had in the past to what we've done this week so far
So
with the AK.
the majority of the training I had has been trained around, or it, I don't know how to describe this. The weapons handling has been taught that's based around stress. Whereas this is a skills class, in my opinion. How do I get faster, more efficient? What's a better way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not just optimize for stress and there's one way to do everything, but if I'm going to put as much time as I do and like competition shooters do and figure out a better way, then you
Did you get a little bit louder? Yeah.
Yeah, a lot louder.
You got to get closer to it, or I got.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's fine.
Like, what's the better way? You know, there's more than one way to skin a cat. What works best for me?
Yeah.
And this is the experimentation under a watchful eye and knowledgeable instructors to find out what's the best for the person that's doing it, not just blanket statement, do it this way. And it's been very valuable for me. I've gotten a lot faster at a lot of things, and specifically recoil control. And I'm not a small guy, so.
So let's touch on your reloads here for a second, because yesterday you won a little competition we had, and you ran 2 different techniques, front to back. So what was your first technique versus your second?
So Kyle, explain what the competition was. They got 2 reps, so just talk through it.
Right. So the competition was we had a loaded chamber, an empty mag, press the trigger, had a bang, press the trigger a second time, a click. At that point, there's a forced reload, chamber the weapon, and 1 more round on target. And we ran this on a shot timer.
Yes.
Right. And what was your time?
First or second?
Both.
The first one was, I think it was 4.7 something, but I was so angry at myself for screwing shit up that I can't say that. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did.
My
You
kind of
already said
podcast. It was. What was it?
I think it's time. The initial time was 4:89. So
Okay.
describe the initial reload you did.
Okay, so I had my mind made up. All right, so let me take a step backwards. What I've always done, having taken another rifle class with an AK, I was taught was it the Russian reload? I think is we use the mag to drop the other mag.
we're nicknaming it the chop.
The
The
rate.
chop. Yeah. So I was taught the chop, and then in the class, one of the 2 other methods it was taught was after you have the mag you're reloading with in your hand, use your thumb to drop the empty mag and then rock the new one in. So I'd made my mind up that's what I was going to do. And then somewhere in the OODA loop or I don't know something, I got screwed up. So 1 reload 1 in the middle of the drill, I grabbed my other mag, go to do the reload, and when I got to the magazine well, I was halfway in between the chop technique and halfway in between using my thumb. The thumb couldn't reach the release, and the angle on the mag was wrong, and I just like bobbled everything until I finally got it back together and finished the drill. And I was mad at myself, right? I screwed it up, whatever. So I was like, okay, that didn't work. Too much muscle memory and trying to relearn neural pathways. So I decided for the second one, I need to dump the mag before I get the new one to put it in. So the second round, I did exactly that. And bang, click, drop the mag with my thumb, grab the new mag, rock it in, bang again. And my time dropped, what would you say it was? 4:55 on the second one. So, and I where I screwed up, I didn't slow down trying to put the reload in, which is where I bobbled a little bit. But even still, I mean,
That's a pretty significant
It could
decrease in
have.
time.
It could have probably been 0.2 faster, but that bobble in your mind is bigger in your mind than it was in reality. It was still phenomenal for you to switch gears like that after you have this primary way you've done it, that primacy in your mind, and then you chose to take that recency path and you rocked it. So it was awesome.
It was funny. Today you touched on tachypsychia, and when I did both of those drills, it did not feel like 4.5 or 5 seconds. It felt like 10 seconds. It just, everything was like super slow. It just felt like it took forever.
Well, we were also live streaming. There was a lot of stress. Everyone was staring at you.
They had stopped the live stream before I started.
Oh, you lucked out then. Yeah,
My heart was still like, I get that. I'm not a competition shooter. I think I've been on a timer.
Yeah,
like
I quit
6
right
times in
when
my
you
life.
did yours.
Yep.
I was like, all right, we'll cut it off now and then.
But there's a good amount of
winner.
pressure on you, man.
Well, my heart was already like for half an hour after that. I've done force on force training, so anytime, for whatever reason, ever since I've done a force on force class, when I get on a timer, like I'm going into a scenario. The scenario is there's a timer, but the scenario, I go back to some other scenarios that like everything just jumps in and my heart rate goes up, and before the timer even beeps, I'm already thump 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 thump.
We'll get ready because we got a lot more timer coming up.
Yay!
We still got a half a day coming up.
Yeah.
So.
As long as we're learning, and I'm sure we will be. So.
No, but this is impressive. What did you win?
To be honest, I know it's a flat pack, but
Haley Strategic, yeah.
Flat pack plus. Try to say that 10 times
HSP.
fast. Yeah.
What is it, Jared?
Haley Strategic Flat Pack Plus.
Yeah.
Yeah. Courtesy of 212 Training Group, so appreciate that.
Worked out well because
Well, congratulations
fashion.
on that, man.
Thank
So
you.
we want to see
well
some.
done.
We want to see some posts on social media with that. You know.
I got to make a profile first.
Well, you don't have to go do all that. Yeah. Well, we appreciate you taking the course. Thank you so much for
thanks for
joining
the
us.
opportunity. This is awesome. I really, really love for this class. I'm a mechanic, like the armorer's portion. Like to be honest, that's the reason I came. But I'm glad I did because like I'd anticipated more of what I've already learned, which was do things this way, not figure out what works for you. And it opened up a whole new spectrum of things for myself to self-analyze. So thank you
Very
guys.
cool.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Who we got next here? Rolling in. What's up, man?
Hey, what's going on?
Introduce yourself.
Dane Birch out of Salem, Virginia.
Salem, Virginia.
That's
You,
right.
you came a long way to be here.
Not too bad.
Did you fly or drive?
Oh, we drove.
You drove?
Yeah.
What was it, like 12 hours?
No, it's like 6.5.
That's it?
Yeah.
Wow.
How fast did you drive?
You know,
Marty, have you ever seen where Virginia is on the map compared to Tennessee?
Yeah, it's
we
way
kinda
out
touch.
there.
Yeah, we kind of touch. Right
It's
now.
far away. You know, coming to Nashville is a long drive for me, you know, coming out of Murfreesboro to Nashville.
Driven with Aaron.
It's not. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. It's not like Texas where you can drive 12 hours and still be in the same damn state.
It is going long ways. Going up and down, it's not.
Yeah.
North and south, no, it's not at all. So, is this the first rifle course you've ever taken?
First rifle course, yes. First training course, no.
Okay. So, talk a little bit about your background in training. What other courses have you taken?
Multiple handgun, multiple shotgun type classes from TAC Response.
Okay.
And,
A fellow alum.
Yeah. The armorer's course here really appealed to me. Meeting all you guys really appealed to me. And I got to tell everybody, if you haven't shot with a shot timer, man, it's stressful.
Adds a little bit of stress, doesn't it, man?
Yeah, it's good
You
times.
did good though. I mean, you did.
No.
I could see that you were
yeah,
very
you
were
did.
very
Yeah, you
focused, and you had the way things were going to go in your mind.
Until they didn't.
Until they didn't, exactly, and that's kind of where you fell apart.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's what they're trying to teach in this too. Is everything's not going to go perfect, but you got to keep moving. You got to keep working through it.
Yeah.
You know, so talk about other than the armors, which hopefully we'll get Brian over here. I don't know if he's still here or not, but we want to talk a little bit about that. What have you? This is your first rifle course.
Yeah.
Okay. How long have you been shooting an AK?
What's this, day 2?
Day 2?
We'll go with 2 days.
Okay, so
I'm a collector of things. I'm not necessarily the best shooter.
but is your past experience with ARs?
No.
So this is your first rifle.
Yeah.
Okay.
Shotgun.
Okay,
That's it.
gotcha. So what's compared to the handgun courses that you've had in training? How's this differ for you?
You can mess up a lot more trying to be speedy on a rifle than you can with a handgun. It is a lot less forgiving. That's all I don't know.
Yeah.
it's a whole lot more exciting fun than shotgun.
There's more moving parts to the.
Yeah. And you're obviously not reloading as much, but it is a challenge.
Yeah. So as far as what you've learned so far, what's been your favorite drill that you've done with these guys? Run through the drills.
I mean, I got you.
Man, drill. Say
I
that
got
again.
you. Yeah. Shooting on the move and put all the rounds in the box.
Yeah, you didn't realize that we were going to do ballroom dancing today, did you?
Dude, as long as I can lead, you can stand on my feet.
You did some shooting on the move today.
Yeah. And when you said put them all in the box, that was when we had you on a shop timer, and you
Yeah.
had to go into prone under
Yeah.
a certain amount of time
Yes.
and put 5 rounds in a very small 1-inch box, right?
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
fun.
you rocked that, dude.
That was the only one that on the timer I enjoyed.
No, I remember seeing your groups, man. Those were tight.
Mm-hmm. I cheated. I went down to my knee. I didn't go prone.
And you only shot twice.
You're right. I got this
Yeah,
thing
in some
in
ways,
my back.
that's
I don't know
far
why.
more difficult.
Right?
Yeah.
Shut up. So are you running an Occam?
Yes.
Okay, so you have an Occam. This is your first rifle that so you don't really have anything else to compare it to. So talk about your experience with your rifles that you've had in this. You had any problems with it? What do you like about it? Anything you change about it, add to it?
The only thing I'm going to change and or add would be go ahead and either change the space where your suppressor goes.
Yeah,
The
the
brake?
muzzle device.
The brake? Yeah.
So
muzzle
I'll make
brake.
the muzzle
flash hider, muzzle device.
I'll make that change to where it'll match the suppressors I have versus matching suppressors I have not purchased yet.
Gotcha.
Because the silenced ones, oh man, yeah, that's the way.
Yeah, we got a couple running. One of you guys is running one can,
Yeah.
right? What are you running?
Yeah, we were running the Dead Air Sandman S on the 10.5 Occam for that was yesterday. We were running that, but we also got a Sandman K in here. Not us, but there's a couple of suppressors.
Charles
in here
has that, right? Yeah.
Yep. And who has the OSS?
Oh, that's Charles. Charles has
Charles
that.
has that.
Charles.
No,
Yeah.
yeah. Someone's running the Sandman K as well, and
Yep.
it's sounding pretty good. But yeah, we got a couple suppressors in here. We got a couple 10.5-inch with no suppressors and muzzle brakes as well, which causes a small explosion every time it goes off. It's
I think they've actually cracked the foundation several times.
Broke a light
yeah,
yesterday.
Yeah, black light.
I think
a little
when
loud.
you suppress one, that's really when an Occam shines. You know, when you're getting all that back pressure, all that heat build up in that gas tube, and it's not transmitted to your hand. That's really when you start seeing the benefits of the Merc.
Yeah, seeing the OSS out here on the Occam, like that, I'm really impressed with the performance of that. It's been really cool to see that. That's the first time. That's the first time I've got to witness a lot of rounds go through that type of a suppressor. Because most people are still running your kind of standard baffled suppressors, Surefire, Dead Air, and those are relatively similar, a little bit different tone and pitch.
Yeah.
Those things, but seeing the OSS is such a different design. It's really kind of cool to see.
We're running short on time. But thank you. Appreciate you coming
Yep,
all the way
thank
from
you.
Virginia. And if we have another one, would you come?
Yeah.
Okay. Didn't we get a request to have one in Virginia yesterday from
Yeah,
the live
on the live stream? Yeah.
on a live stream?
Yeah, we have been coming to Virginia for the past 2 years. We've got a location in Winchester, and we're working on scheduling our next Winchester, Virginia training. Hopefully, we'll have that up on the calendar within the next 4 weeks. But we're going to be working hard for that. So you lead heads, stay tuned, keep following, keep track of the website and the media posts. So we're going to be working hard on the calendar.
If you want one in your area of the country, get in touch with me or Jared, either one, and let us know. And if you get enough people, we can probably put something together.
Yeah, and we absolutely understand the ammo issues now, and we are kind of scaling back our round counts a little bit. That doesn't mean it's diminishing the value of the processes at all. It just means we're very conscientious of what's going on because we're fighting the same fight. So
you're also giving some good tips on things you can do at home that don't require the ammos. Some of these drills that you can run from home, which is extremely beneficial, especially in these times. With the
Oh, absolutely, and the vast majority of technique can be practiced without ever expelling around. I mean, if you want to double tap fast and shoot fast, you've got to burn ammo. There's no way around that.
Right.
But trigger press, sight acquisition, building a good foundation, movements, all of this can be practiced
Footwork.
without ever spinning around.
Yeah.
And that's really the point here, is we just want to provide everybody with a lot of different skills that they can walk away with and digest and determine what works best for them and implement it in their own trainings at home.
What's the rest of the day hold for us here?
I think we're going into weapon transitions.
Yeah, so we'll do some primary to secondary weapon transitions. We'll do some target transitions, and then we'll do a couple competitions after that where we're giving away a couple more prizes. So
Nice.
So.
I don't know any other training course that gives as much back to the students, than we have. Got the prizes, the competition shoots. I mean, it's fun too. We have fun with it. The shirts, the hats, if you were here, Occam Defense gave away some awesome discounts that, specifically for these students.
Yeah, they're going to have to earn them today. We haven't given them away yet. They're going to have to step up and perform a little bit. But it's going to be fun.
But that's something that we do different than maybe you've taken. Our listeners have taken courses in the past, and the interaction that you guys do with the students too, not just during but after the classes too. We go to dinner, we hang out, and continue on the conversations.
This entire experience for all of us is about the people. It's about them, because we don't get to do this without them. And I know that we've personally been to trainings where you go through a drill, you go through a rep or something, and training versus practice training, you want feedback. It's like a coach watching you in any sport, and we've all played sports. So you go through a process and you look to an individual to give you criticism and say, what do I need to work on? And I've been to courses where I hear, okay, good job, next. And I'm like, I would kind of like some input. So that's what we want to avoid. We're constantly trying to provide input, and sometimes from our standpoint that it feels like maybe it can be overwhelming, and so there's a balance there. We try to, with each repetition, we try to give somebody at least 1 input, okay? Yeah. And usually it starts out with, you did this perfectly and this really well. Try to think about this next time, because we want people to concentrate on their successes just as much, if not more, than what didn't go right. That makes sense.
Yep, absolutely. So, guys, let's answer some of these questions from our listeners on competition shooter with the AK-47. Now, there's only a couple of AK-specific competitions that I'm aware of. Kalash Bash being one, and then Red October. Yeah. And there might be another one. Isn't there another one out there?
There is, but those seem to be the two larger, more popular ones.
Right. But is there anything – we need 20. We need 10. How about 10?
How about 8? Everybody. I'm sorry, I gave Marty the 5-minute.
Yeah.
Everybody's back in here.
Rapid fire.
We could come back to this too if we have have time.
Yeah. We got a lot of work to do still.
Yeah, and you shoot AKs solely, exclusively, right, Kyle?
Yep, that's right.
And are you AR and AK?
Yeah,
on your competition.
Yeah, pretty mix of both. Actually, AK is probably a secondary platform. I'm probably a little bit more heavy on the AR side.
Okay, so Aaron's more the AR side, and then Jared, you're probably about 50-50.
I like it all.
You like it all.
Yeah, if it goes
bring
bang,
it all
it's
on.
fun, man.
Yeah, but some of these just competitions, you can use an AK, right? You don't have to use you can use whatever rifle you want, right? Unless it specifically states.
Well, you can, but the AR is the American rifle. You can build one like a set of Legos.
That's what AR stands for, American Rifle.
The American rifle.
I was trying to figure that out.
That's it, man. Yeah, not Armalite. But so up until these products came out more recently, it really was apples to oranges. It wasn't a fair comparison, and to go run a Comblock AK against a modern AR, it didn't make sense. Mm-hmm. But now the argument of ergonomics is a moot point. The argument of the sights, moot point.
Accuracy.
Accuracy, moot point.
Right.
Yeah, at this point, it's preference. And me, the analogy, I guess, would be if you treat your gun like a lawnmower, buy a Glock, and it's the same if you treat your rifle like a lawnmower, buy an AK.
Yeah.
And I'm a dirtbag, man. So I like my AK. I don't clean it very often. It doesn't let me down. That's what I run.
Right. What about you, Aaron?
No, I feel the same way. I think the AK is just a bomber platform, man, and I think it's evolved to a point where we're starting to get some extreme precision out of them that no one would expect. Everyone's always looked at the 7.62x39 as just this inaccurate. If it's under 100 yards, you'll probably be all right, but anything over that is just not going to happen. But we've ran these things out to 300, and we're grouping and very combat effective. Like not just like 1 out of 4 hits. It's like they are
consistent.
They're very consistent, and these platforms are just as reliable. Actually, I think more reliable in many conditions than the AR platform. AR, I think Kyle hit it on the head. I think everyone's just really familiar with it. You got prior to COVID, you had just buy a lower for $40. You can slap it together. You can have and the manual of arms is just pretty simple. You can find thousands of YouTube videos on how to run it and everything else. There's just not a lot of knowledge about some of the modern AK features and functions,
Right.
and there's a lot of myths out there.
What would you say the biggest myth is, in your opinion?
I think either probably the inaccuracy and just how hard it is to manipulate.
What about you, Kyle? Is everybody back?
Yeah.
I don't see it.
Everybody's back. Yep.
The biggest myth around the AK?
In your opinion, yeah. As far as for competition use.
For competition use, I think accuracy as well. For a long time, I heard people talk about how we were trying to compare Chinese or military surplus bulk ammunition to American brass ammunition. But
Yeah.
I've got a bolt gun chambered in 7.62x39. With that same steel case per damn prime military surplus ammo, we're ringing steel at 820. We're consistently doing it 600
Nice.
meters. I mean, that cartridge will reach out there. Now, not the most effective cartridge to do that with.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I think that the biggest myth is that the 223 is superior. In some ways, maybe, sure.
Depends on the application.
Absolutely, yeah. It depends on the application. Still apples to oranges in a lot of ways. But I think at this point, the argument of AK versus AR just comes down to preference. There's not one that's better for any one reason.
What's one of the big 3-gun competitions that are out there that you guys have been in?
I've never shot 3-gun.
You've never done the 3-gun?
Much
Do you do
would like to go
3-gun?
shoot
You don't
No,
do 3-gun?
I haven't done 3-gun. No.
I've done very small 3-gun matches, just real local and
Local
real
stuff.
small local stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
like 25 shooters, just a couple of times. I haven't done it very much.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
I was wanting to get your opinion on those 3 guns that you run. How many AKs do you see?
None.
Zero.
None at all.
Never. I've never.
And with
I know a lot of competitive shooters that do run 3-gun. No one's even mentioned an AK.
yeah.
So, again, I've never shot a 3-gun, but have you guys seen people running, 12-gauge AK variants?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
So they are. They're present, just not
12
in there.
gauge. Yeah, I've seen.
Yeah. Like Sega or something along those lines.
Say Kalash has got one out. Kalashnikov has one out.
Yeah, Kalash USA.
Yeah, in fact, that's
Yeah.
the first time I saw one. It's been 6 or 7 years ago, but a guy was running an AK-12, whatever they're called.
Yeah, so I fully expect that in the next year or two we'll see those. Well, granted, we were able to get ammunition. I think we will see those start coming into 3-gun because the AK is becoming more and more popular every month.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't open a major magazine, shooting magazine these days, and not see
the AK.
see a whole bunch
and
of them
especially with
tricked out.
companies like Brian that are innovative and bringing it into the 21st century.
Absolutely.
I think we're going to start seeing even more of those, and we're going to start seeing even more of those in these 3 guns and just regular competition.
Oh, I
type
think
stuff.
so too. Yeah.
And hopefully, the ammo is going to catch up with that too. So
Yeah.
we're gonna
6
get back to
years.
class.
All right, let's
we're
go
gonna get back
shoot
to class, but when we come back, I want to talk about accessories and things like that for the
Absolutely.
Please,
To the
I've
AK.
tried them all. Let's delve into that.
Cool.
cool. Jared's an ass.
Yep,
Thanks, Mom.
sorry. Good stuff, man.
That's a good start,
Yeah, I mean, hell, we could talk for hours. But
and we will. Oh, but we just got started.
All right, guys, I think everybody's back.
Absolutely, man. Appreciate y'all doing it. And we got to finish it up, so let's not forget that up. If we have to do it at home, we'll do it at home. All right, cool.
Later on, when we go back to that, whenever we do it,
like Luke Combs is worried about a picture of him in front of a Confederate flag. Think about the pictures there are of me out there.
All right, let me get your mic levels.
I like scotch. Scotch down in my belly. The arsonist had oddly shaped feet.
You're good.
How you doing?
How you doing?
How you doing?
What's your name? Where you from?
Jeff Carmichael, Nashville, Tennessee.
Get on it.
Work right here, Royal Range.
All right, let me hear yours.
Hey, Marty.
You got to turn it on. Turn it on.
Is it on?
There.
Hey, buddy. How you? Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
Very nice.
All right. Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, fuck you.
You know the routine.
The hey buddy was a little creepy.
Hey,
gotta
buddy. All right, so we tracked Brian down. He's been running around like a chicken with his head cut off. Or is it more like a man in demand? I think that's probably what it is. Everybody's pulling you to the side, wanting something, asking you this, asking you that, picking the big brain on Brian.
Well, like I said, I don't have ducks, and they're not in a row. I got squirrels, and they're at a rave.
They're at a rave, raving squirrels. So we're at the AK Koncepts course here in Nashville, Tennessee. We're like day 2.5 or 1.5, I guess. We're getting ready to go into the second half of day 2. And the first 2 days, we kicked it off. We split the classes up. We did armors, and then we did some range time. And you were doing some pretty detailed, but I guess what would be considered to you just novice kind of armor type stuff with the AK-47. Talk about this golden nugget that you've added to our course here with your Occam Defense's armors course.
Yeah, so I've titled it Care and Feeding of the AK. We went over field stripping the gun, getting the bolt carrier out, disassembling the bolt, getting it back together, safety checking the bolt. You know, there's one of the big safety check on a bolt when you're putting them back together is giving it the rattle. You know, making sure that firing pin is rocking around nice and free in there, and also that this is not a safety thing, but that the extractor, that little monkey hand that sits out to the side that grabs the cartridge and yanks it out of the chamber, that thing's flexing right. And then we went over this morning. We did the fire control group, and there's a functional safety check that I think is the most important part of that.
Yeah.
Making sure that those access pins are retained, that you've got the proper amount of clearance with your safety down to the trigger, which is incredibly critical on an ALG trigger. And just sort of, some other things that have to do with accuracy and how you as a shooter contribute to your group size, and when it's time to fix you in terms of getting more training, and when it's time to fix your gun, by which I mean level up and buy a more expensive accurate gun, assuming when we're talking about working on accuracy. Mm-hmm. And then we've also gone over some issues with ammo reliability that we've seen lately during COVID, and so they got a deep dive on the different failure modes I'm seeing and stuff to look out for and ways to mitigate that.
Well, let's talk about that.
Sure.
Let's because you recently have had some bad luck with the ammo and the quality control of the batches that you've been getting, as well as have some other people that I've heard with the ammo. Are you hearing that too, Jeff? Introduce yourself. I'm sorry.
Jeff Carmichael, work here, Royal Range. I do all the full auto stuff.
Yeah, he's
all the fun stuff.
The full auto genius here. He actually worked on my AK. I brought that rear sight tower, one of Brian's rear sight towers in, and he put it on one of my other AKs. Which one was it? The Palmetto State, I think.
I think so.
Yeah, it was a booger bear, but you got it done. I gave him the wrong rear sight tower in his defense. But you know, being here at the range, are you guys? Because you sell tons and tons of ammo here when you get it. So.
I mean, most of the stuff we're running's pretty much all been Tula, and really with Tula, you can't go wrong.
So you guys haven't had any problems or so far? with that? We'll talk about what
Well,
the
and-
issues that you ran into, Brian.
Well, and these guys, Royal Range is they might not look it from the street, but they are a major outfit, and they buy very large quantities of ammo, and so they have control over their supply in a way that others might not on a mom and pop shop level or whatever. But yeah, we've seen a couple. One gun coming back with the being so badly overpressured that a bunch of primers were rattling around in the firing pin channel. So speaking of that rattle test earlier, that's a real good thing to check, is to make sure that your firing pin, when you pull the bolt out of the gun, so you pull the dust cover, pull the recoil spring, pull the bolt carrier back, rotate the bolt out of there, and just giving it a shake next to your ear and making sure that thing rattles free is good. And well, we had one where the firing pin channel is just crammed full of brass from the primer actually getting blown back through the hole that the firing pin comes in.
Oh, shit.
And stacking up in there. That was one interesting one. And we've had some others with headspace issues where the cartridge is just way too big to even chamber in the gun. And so those are two examples of what I've seen. There's other stuff like it, but basically, yeah, like make sure your gun chambers your rounds. And for folks with really large big head spaces, if they're hanging out more like closing on a no-go, they're not going to see this as much, but we chamber our guns fairly tight. They're within the spec, but we're on the tighter end, and so we're a lot more sensitive when ammo's really out of spec. You're going to see it more on our guns. And yeah, on a sloppy AK, you're not going to see when a cartridge is 5 thousandths or 6 thousandths over headspace, which is a large amount. That might sound like a small number, but it's big. You'll see it on one of our guns when you might not see it on a looser gun.
This the ammo issue is just, you haven't seen it up until like
6 months
recently.
ago.
Yeah,
6 months
ago.
Our guns haven't changed. The ammo's very definitely changed. And with the firing pin channel issue, like with the primers going into the firing pin channel, that is disastrous for any AK. That's like a bunch of proof loads basically.
We'll talk about your first experience with it when you were doing, you were testing your rifle, and you're just like, you weren't getting the groups that you normally get, and you kept thinking it was the rifle. Talk about that.
Oh yeah, that was actually Jared from 212. He was wanting to send a gun back to us because it had been a sub MOA gun, and all of a sudden the pattern was blown all to hell. It was like 12 MOA or something. And I had assumed he had checked with a bunch of different kinds of ammo and stuff, but I think he may have, but it ended. He got unlucky in how he was running his ammo, and he tried it on some of our known good ammo, and it was still a sub MOA gun, and so that wasn't a headspace issue. That was just crap ammo, and so stuff is definitely opening up. What we're seeing is definitely a change in quality. Over the last 6 months or so. Our issue where I first started to get keyed up on this was we had a whole batch of 12 guns that failed reliability. We check our guns after they're sort of birthed, but before they have paint on them.
Right.
We run a bunch of rounds through and make sure they kick brass real well, and every single gun failed for reliability. They'd run 20 rounds great, and then one would just kind of plop out onto the ground. And we have a standard that we have at least 5 foot of ejection, and more like 10 foot is what we like to see. And when they bobble like that, normally before this last 6 months, when I saw that would mean that I had an extractor that wasn't quite right, usually, or sometimes a recoil spring that would impact bolt carrier speed. And we'd swap out the extractor, put in a new recoil spring, and make sure that every single round was ejecting sweetly. And so just, I'd run half a mag or 3/4 of a mag, and everything would be groovy. And then I'd just get this one on the ground. And then, so yeah, I spent 50 hours over 3 days just blowing, thousands of $1,000 worth of ammo probably. But my time, taking production down like that is scary.
Well, that and thinking it's your rifle and not knowing, then you put the time into tuning the rifle, and that's not the issue. So.
And then I ran into one round where it was so big that it wouldn't even chamber, and I was out on the range going, what the heck? And so I pulled out I'm like, these guns are out of headspace. And then I checked on my headspace gauges, and I was sweet. We were right where we wanted to be, and that's what let me figure out that we were dealing with an ammo problem.
Yeah.
And so that's the.
So that's something
the
our
situation.
listeners need to be aware of.
Yep.
So if you're out there shooting and your gun isn't performing like it normally has, you might want to check into your ammo.
Yep. And I wouldn't. This is not to panic everybody. This
is just a public service announcement.
Yep. That just you're going to get more opportunities to practice malfunction drills in your range time, and we can all feel grateful for that.
Brian always looking at the positive.
There you go. The vast majority of ammo out there is safe. I don't know that I think the incidence of dangerous ammo, I don't know if it's higher or lower. I'm just seeing with these headspace issues that you're going to see some variation in your ejection pattern that you might not otherwise experience.
All right.
Yeah, I'll just interject there, though.
And this is our good buddy, Drew.
Oh, yeah. Hey, everybody. What's going on, guys? This brings up actually a really good point just in general for all guns, not just AKs. But when people have problems with their firearms, they're just super quick. Oh, there's something wrong with my gun. There's something wrong with my gun. There's something wrong with my gun. 95% of the time, it's probably something wrong with your ammo. Don't ever take your gun and send it back or do that. Try a different brand. Try a different grain weight. Try something different.
Ammo-wise, yeah.
Ammo-wise. I know it's kind of difficult right now, but just for future, just for the listeners, just to keep it in your head. If you have a problem with your gun, don't just jump to the conclusion that it's your gun, because it's probably not. It can be, don't get me wrong.
Yep.
But a lot of times it's the ammunition and it has nothing to do with your gun at all.
Yep.
So just do a couple checks before you freak out and think my gun's jacked up.
Yep. And if you're unfamiliar with how to deal with malfunctions in a gun, there are lots of great trainers good time to get training. Even though ammo is really expensive, there has never been a more critical time to get trained. And so if you haven't experienced what that's like, dealing with double feeds, all the type 1, type 2, type 3 kind of stuff, like stovepiping where the round doesn't eject really all the way. It kind of flips around and the spent round gets stuck in the ejection port. Our good buddy James Yeager is here, Jared Seagraves with 212. James Yeager at Tactical Response. Both of those guys offer phenomenal training, and it's a great time. I think training on a legislative level is going to be under attack for logistical reasons. Getting to and from training might get difficult. This is a good time to get on it if you don't know how to clear those things.
All right, and our students that are here this week, they took advantage of that. Our lead heads, we got several lead heads here in class. I mentioned that earlier. And if you are in another state, another area, and you're interested, I know I had a couple contact me already. Interested in having this course in their neck of the nation, get in touch with me, talkinglead@gmail.com, and we can talk about it. And I'll talk to you about what you need to do to make that happen. We're doing our part to keep the training going, definitely. And we have fun here, too. This is not just a rifle course. Brian has made it fun by bringing the armorer's bit into it as well. Teaching the deconstruction of the bolt all the way down to its bare necessities, and then reconstructing. And you were doing the trigger today, the firing control group.
Yeah, no, it's a terrible time. Don't come. It's no fun at all.
No,
it's not like grown-up summer camp. We don't cut up. We don't go out to dinner.
We do.
Like,
we do cut. We have
stuff.
competitions. We've done some competitions between the students after they run their drills and whatnot. We've got 2 today scheduled for the end of the day, giving away some awesome prizes, some awesome cool swag. Everybody got shirts, dump trays, all kinds of stuff. Andrew from Century Arms brought some swag, patches, and T-shirts, and all kinds of cool stuff. So we make it fun for our students. We have a good time. And then, of course, like you said, it's not just like when class is done, we're done. We've been hanging out with the students. Went to dinner last night with a couple of them. Charles, your Mandalorian ODS 1775 owner.
Yeah, by the time this comes out, I will have posted those pics. I wanted to not post. People have been asking for me to post pics of the whole gun, and I wanted to wait till he had it in his hands. He's a big supporter of ours. And,
Yeah, I was
came out
surprised
good.
to see that because I remember it was a couple of weeks ago you were posting the parts that you were Cerakoting and getting ready for it, and of course everybody could tell by the paint scheme, it was going to be Mandalorian, and I didn't know, who it was going to or if we'd ever see it again, and then lo and behold, it's here in class. I was like, yes.
Yeah, it's a fun gun.
You did a good job on that one. It's beautiful. It turned out awesome.
Well, thanks. I'm kind of an amateur Cerakoter. I'm not the one who Cerakotes most of the guns at Occam, but my Cerakoter took one look at the job, and Cody, my right-hand man, he's like, I got enough to do already. And so I was like, okay, I'll do this one. And, the great thing about Mandalorian is the point of it is that it's got to look beat to shit. And so you can cover up a lot of sins just by you hold the Cerakote gun a couple feet back and just fog black onto the top of it to kind of darken the whole, make it look dirty. And I covered up a lot of sins on that gun with grime.
Well, you wouldn't know it. It looks good.
Well, cool. Thank you.
So, Jeff, in your experience here at Royal Range, what would you say would be the main reason why you guys get AKs in to work on them? What are you fixing or adjusting the most?
Dealing with mostly the full auto stuff. There's not a whole lot that goes wrong on the AK platform in general. You get enough rounds through it, rails banjo, throw a weld at it, you might get 10, 20,000 rounds more out of it.
Yeah.
Until
it
I am
banjos
unfamiliar
again.
with the term rails going banjo, so
Okay.
maybe you could educate
Sounds
us
very
here.
southern, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
So what happens is where the bolt actually runs on the rails. If
Drop
you
his
have
mic
enough
there.
rounds through it, it gets through the heat treat. If the heat treat's not that great, which we all know on the receivers on the AK, if the heat treat's not right, the gun's not right.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So you get a lower quality AK, you put 10,000 rounds through it, 20,000, you never know. If the heat treat's not there, it actually wears through the rails.
So very telltale.
And so
sign
you
for
weld
that.
in, do you do, what percentage of those are, the ejector is from what I understand, one of the first things to go. And one interesting thing I've run into is that if you use standard weld rod, it's very soft. And so what we've ended up doing is mixing in hard facing rod to get a good, it's hard as shit and tough as shit after you're done with it. I'm curious what you guys do on those rails. Are you welding in new rails, like spot welding in new rails, or what, what's your, if you don't mind sharing your method, if it's a trade secret, don't worry about it.
No, basically all you do is get the rail as square as possible to the receiver and weld it in. Since they came out with a hard-facing welding rod, it's been a game changer. You don't have to use any of the cherry bomb, none of the surface hardening compounds. It's a bear once you get it welded on to grind it.
Yep.
and
Yeah,
get
it is.
polished.
Yep.
But it works.
Totally.
I mean, you can't go wrong with it. You're going to pay a little bit more. I mean, you're not going to go out and buy 10 pounds of welding rod the same as you would ER70. But
ER70 is like the garden variety TIG rod, for those listeners out there. And
Yeah, I'm leaving it up to you to decode this one.
yeah, and TIG, guys, is there's kind of 3 different kinds of welding, and 2 of them, well, you can do all 3 on an AK. You're allowed to, and one of our supporters, Jeff Kirkham, he came up with a thing called the Kirkham shelf, or that's what we call it. That's a magazine indexing shelf. And he welded that first thing on. He took a Spam can opener and he cut the back of the handle off it. And then he took some coat hanger and a couple car batteries on the back of a Hilux in Afghanistan and used the coat hanger to weld that Spam can opener handle onto the deal. So I'm here to tell you I know of at least one guy, and I know when I was starting out I used some really fine stick and did that. But typically most folks in the AK industry weld with wire, like a MIG gun. Metal Inert Gas is what that stands for, and it's like there's a spool of wire that comes out the gun, and it arcs and melts the wire and makes an arc, and there's typically either gas or flux on that on that wire that allows the metals to flow together. But what most folks that I'm aware of that are doing it at a very high level, and that's not everybody, I know some really good guys that use wire, but most folks use something called Tungsten Inert Gas, where there's a little handle that is holding a tungsten pencil, and it shoots inert gas around that pencil, and then you get you strike an arc and melt the metal with that arc, and the inert gas, like argon typically, flows around that and keeps it from rusting or oxidizing. And then you add in different alloy wires to, or rods. It's like a filler metal is what it's called. It's kind of like solder, but a different idea, but functionally the same as if you're soldering. You push this rod in, and it greatly increases the strength of the metal. And in the case of this hard-facing rod, if you guys have ever seen bulldozers and stuff that have the lines etched onto the outside, that's where the metal is worn down, and people go back with what's called a stick welder, where they melt this very, very tough alloy steel onto the outside of the buckets on the bulldozers or
on the bucket, yeah.
Yeah, on buckets and anything that's got contact with earth.
Right.
And is the majority or all of your welding with TIG?
I do all 100% TIG.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, MIG is great. It's quick, fast, down and dirty. Just about everybody can MIG weld. If you can fill in the little dots we all filled in doing the standardized testing as kids, you can MIG weld. TIG welding takes a lot more practice.
A little more dexterity.
A little bit more dexterity.
Yeah.
But if you can ride a motorcycle, you can TIG weld.
I can't TIG weld.
You're using both hands, you're using a foot, and the other foot is generally bent into shapes that we won't go into, just to get the right angle of everything.
And your tongue has to be in a very particular corner of your mouth at the same time. Yep.
To make everything go in right.
Yep.
So with the class, Brian, what with the students that you've had, what do you think that they've had the most problems, I guess, dealing with in the armorers portion of this? Would you say is the most difficult task for them?
I'd say the fire control group is by observation more difficult.
Right.
Just about everybody got through the bolt without trouble. It's really a wonderful design. It's very simple, and there's kind of only one way to do it. And with the fire control group, there's enough moving pieces where some folks are very mechanically inclined and some aren't. And so I taught it a couple different ways. James has been helping out with figuring out how to teach this stuff, and so we were debugging it a little bit because doing the fire control group, a lot of people got stuck. And so the second time around, rather than have everybody do it on their own, we had people watch me, but before that, we just ended up making our guns safe, pulling the bolt and bolt carrier out, and then I just had them look at the fire control group and play with all the components and tell me how it worked. Yeah. And a lot of folks in their everyday life aren't dealing with machines. And it's one of the reasons I love the AK is how simple it is. And so even though it
has built-in tools.
It has built-in tools. But, I would say if people are not mechanically inclined and or don't know much about the AK, pulling their bolt and bolt carrier and just watching the fire control group. And
it can be intimidating, yeah.
It can, but I think just playing with the system as assembled without a bolt in it where you can watch everything, I think that'll make just about everybody a better shooter because, we talk about trigger reset a great deal. That's one of the fundamentals of marksmanship is to reset your trigger and pull your trigger smoothly and to look at the mechanisms there and to just discover for yourself how that whole thing works. I think it certainly made me a better shooter to understand how the gun works.
Right, I think it adds to this course as well. So I think it was a great addition. It's something that we weren't thinking about in the beginning, but then as it evolved, we decided to add this. I think it was very good. I had several of the students come up and say when they heard you were going to be here, that's when they signed up because they
cool.
They specifically wanted to come for your portion of the class. So I thought that was kind of cool.
Well, great. It's been a lot of fun. It's a really nice group, and it's tremendously gratifying to see what the individual shooters have done with the guns that we've built at Occam. Probably 80% of the class is running one of our guns. And, I've shot every single gun that's gone out our door. I'm the guy that does final test on these just because
got your DNA on every one of them.
Got a fingerprint on every one of them, but every person that works at Occam touches these guns. We don't have any, everybody has their fingerprints on the gun.
Right.
So I see them when they're freshly birthed out of the oven going out the door, but they don't have a pistol, a vertical, an angled foregrip or a vertical grip or, rail scales or where people put the lights, what optic setup they're using. Like the primary arms, they've got a 3-power ACSS scope that a gentleman's running that is really cool, and I didn't know about it, and it's a really nice setup on our gun.
Yeah, we've actually talked about it here on the show. We had primary arms on, and season 2 of the AK Corner. We talked about their AK-47 specific.
Well, I knew about the
BUs.
1-6. I use it all the time on.
No, they talked about that one too.
Well,
you were on the show, I think.
Like I said, I got squirrels, and they're at a rave. Yeah, but at any rate, it's really cool.
I know, like I said, there were several of the students that signed up specifically for you, so they're out on the range right now. Let's let them get their money's worth, and let's go out and shoot with them.
Sounds good. Looking forward to it.
All right, AK heads, we're back. We're at day 2 still of the Talking Lead AK Concepts here at Royal Range, USA, and it's been a packed couple of days. Very busy, a lot of learning, a lot of education going on here. And Brian Keeney, my consummate co-host here on the AK Corner, is joining me.
Super happy to be back.
Yeah, man. Great to be here. Glad you guys could make the trip from Idaho with all this snow we've had here.
It was dicey. It was dicey. Yeah. But you Southerners seem to know how to handle it. It's working.
I don't know that all the Southerners can handle it. But this young man did. He was able to get here and greet us and meet us as none other than our good buddy James Yeager.
Well, all the Yankees were making fun of me for putting chains on my truck. Because when I hit like 6 inches of snow, I'm like, I'll never get to use these things, man.
All right. Any opportunity, you got to throw those chains on there.
That's
I didn't know those were still legal.
Legal, I say legal schmiegel.
There you go.
I don't follow any laws in which I was not personally consulted before their enactment.
Let them try and catch me without their chains, right?
Yeah, learning how to put on chains when you need them is the wrong time to learn how to put on chains. So, if you guys out there have bought those chains but haven't tried them out yet, good time. Dry runs on a sunny day are really nice for figuring that out.
Well, I'm starting a group for a snow chain carry in all 50 states.
Snow chain carry.
If anybody wants to join that, they can follow the link.
I think you get a good following for that. Definitely. I don't think I've ever personally used the chains. Do they use them a lot in Idaho?
No, but people up where I am have 2 sets of tires and 2 sets of rims.
And snow tires.
Yeah, plug for Blizzak tires, and they are studless. It is a foam rubber, and the siping, the cuts are really deep, and there's grit mixed in with the rubber, and it's almost like a sponge, and the sponge pushes the water. When you're going over ice, you're actually melting the top molecules of water and making them liquid. And when you slide on ice, you're typically actually hydroplaning. Mm-hmm. And these tires have these pores in them that move the water out of the way and get the grit down onto the ice, and they are magic. And so there's a bunch of studless options out there that are very high performance and work really well. So
I take it you're using these tires now.
Oh yeah, okay. And in my wife's car, she has a CRV. Mm-hmm. I cannot get it to skid out under 25 miles an hour, like rallying in the thing. I can't get it to cut loose, and they're amazing technology. So that's been a new thing. I grew up in Rhode Island with tons of ice, and my dad was like, "Yep, standard rubber cracked tire. Cracked rubber tires are great for you, son. Learn how to drive." And my old business partner is a good friend of mine still. Comes from Alaska, and he clued me into the good stuff, and it is the Blizzaks are where it's at.
Now, are those kind of pricey?
they're not cheap, but before I got them, my first winter in Idaho, I was being cheap, and I was driving my wife and kids to the airport. I went under an overpass at 65 on what I thought was a dry road, patch of ice under there. I was going 60, 65 in the wrong lane of oncoming traffic. And I'll tell you, when your whole life is about your children, it seems really friggin' stupid to save money on tires.
Yeah.
Well, I know this podcast isn't talking snow tires, but one last thing. In the South, a lot of guys kind of lose sight of it, but snow chains work great in the mud. Like if you have a farm or something like that and it's raining, snow chains work fantastic in the mud.
That's a good tip.
Really good. That's a fantastic point. Yep.
You know what else works really good in the mud? An AK-47.
That's a segue right there.
Yeah, that's what that's called.
That's what you call a segue. Reel it in, baby. Reel it in.
The guy that invented the Segway died on one.
The little two-wheel thingies?
Yeah. Yeah, he rode off a cliff. He had one of the outdoor ones.
Is that for real?
Segued into heaven, yeah. For real. I'm not even joking.
No.
That's too
but
good to be true.
But your description was pretty good there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was good. That was good. So we're at Royal Range, USA, and we're running the AK Koncepts course here with 212 Training Group. They're out on the range right now, which we're gonna join them here in just a little bit. But James has been joining us all weekend, and we appreciate you being here. In just kind of a fly on a wall perspective, what have you noticed and seen going on here?
So it's what's great. Like people ask me all the time, how do I stay enthusiastic as a trainer? And I tell them I don't have to be, because when students show up, they are. Like they bring that enthusiasm with them. And so every time I come to a class, these guys are all enthusiastic, positive attitudes, ready to learn stuff. And so it just makes it easy for guys teaching to instill these lessons with them. And so this is no different than any other class, but it's good because they got Brian here and Jared and the crew out there on the range, and they get a taste of both of these aspects of the gun. So it's really kind of an eclectic kind of mix of stuff, but everybody's getting good information here.
Yeah, there's several tactical response alums taking this course too. Yeah.
Well, Brian's in the we're kind of mobbed up at tactical response, and Brian's a made man, so.
Yeah, and it is no understatement that without tactical response there would be no Occam Defense, not even hardly. And so James especially, but also my fellow students there have been big supporters, both financially and socially, emotionally, however you want to put it, in terms of that fraternity of alums. It's been really great, and a lot of the alumni are customers of mine, and a lot of people, a lot of my customers who I haven't met before also showed up to this class. Mm-hmm. And so it's been great to put faces to guns, and because we write a love note to every customer there, as they're going out the door, like, hey, Randy, thanks so much for buying one of our guns, that kind of thing. And so
that's not what mine said.
So we know every gun that goes out our shop has somebody's name attached to it as it's moving through. And so it's been really cool to put faces to guns.
And we mentioned this earlier, but it's like 80% of the class are running the ODS 1775. So I thought that was kind of cool too. I wasn't expecting that many of your customers to be in the course, so that's awesome.
Well, the
and
last
their listeners too. Yeah.
The last thing that I want to be building are safe queens, and I've thought of baptizing every one of them in gravel before they go out the door, and I haven't, just as a protection against safe queen behavior.
Yeah.
And I want my guns to
it's
be
like
run.
getting a new pair of shoes, you got to scuff them up a
little bit like that. And so it's great to see our guns getting shot. This is an important mission for us to arm responsible Americans with the best fighting gun we know how to make. And just to watch people doing the right thing and getting training along with that gun is awesome. So tremendously inspiring to be here and see that.
So James has got a 1775.
Yep.
What? Go ahead.
Well, I mean, just like zooming out, like I've been teaching since 1996, and if it was before 2002, and you showed up at a training class, the AK was not the AK; it was the Kami gun. You brought a Kami gun to class, and back then it was kind of a wild world as far as AKs. There might be a Polytech or some whatever, there's all kinds of stuff. But in 2002, Time Magazine had the first picture of a bearded, tattooed former Special Forces turned civilian contractor on the cover. And the world changed almost overnight. It became in vogue to have an AK. I mean, it changed.
It was all the new hotness then.
Yeah. And so if you think back to then, the only accessory really available for an AK then was an Ultimac rail. Mm-hmm. That was it. There really was nothing for an AK. You couldn't, unless you got a Chi-Com chest rig, there was no real gear. There really wasn't.
Yeah.
And so, we fast forward to now, and it's like an AR.
AR,
There's all kinds of stuff for them. But it's been a very unique route. But along the way, I've seen all kinds of AKs, and we use Century Arms AKs for our rental guns, and we just run the shit out of those guns. They work fine.
Yeah.
They're great. But it's a working man's gun. Like, it's just a no frills, get the job done gun. Brian's are more along the lines of I'm not going to say they're not fragile, but like a Ferrari.
Like a Gucci.
Attention to detail, precision.
Precision, yeah.
That you won't find. You can't mass produce. You couldn't mass produce that gun. And so for folks looking for that type of precision, the type of precision that has never existed in an AK in the history of that gun, well, they have to buy an Occam because it has no peer.
Yep, absolutely. And that's what I like about what Brian, the innovation that you're bringing to the AK, rifle. You're bringing the innovation. You're bringing, like I said earlier, you're bringing it to the 21st century. And that's adding to the popularity, I think, to it as well, and the demand. We've seen the demand for the AK over the past 5 years just, skyrocket, and they're damn near impossible to get right now, just because of all the importation bullshit and getting the parts and whatnot. So,
yeah, the social phenomenon of COVID, by which I mean not just the virus, but the reaction to it and the social interactions, has really put the industry on its head a bit. And so, the lack of availability is not from anybody trying to squeeze supply or anything. It's, every company I know, including Century, is working as hard as they can to get through this. And so, yeah, people are working incredibly hard in the industry to get this going, and it's just really tough right now.
The whole COVID fiasco is going to lead to more American innovation into where we're making more and more of the AK parts, to where we're not going to be reliant on the importation any longer.
If I had to forecast Brian's future, he doesn't want this future, but he will be that guy that brings to market this piece and that piece and this piece of an AK that before was not available inside the U.S. He doesn't want to be that guy, but unfortunately, he's at bat.
Necessity dictates, and we've seen you come out. You started off with the rear sight towers. You started making those. You came out with the Merc handguard, and you just let me just do my whole rifle. Now you're doing, the butt stocks because it's like this doesn't really fit my profile for my rifles.
But he's been dragged into each one of those positions.
But he's doing it. That's what I like about it.
That's exactly right.
Necessity, the American necessity. We'll start innovating and creating and making our own parts.
I tried to kick him off the high dive, and he wasn't having it.
Yep. No, James was saying for years, if you want people to adopt your parts, you got to put them on a gun for them. And I didn't want to believe him, and he was 100% right. And no, it's been a lot of, the whole reason we went to 1913 rear trunnions is because you couldn't get stocks. because there was no plastic. You know, the way that U.S. injection molding works is that they buy plastic pellets from China. And even if it's made in the U.S., that material generally comes from China. And people couldn't get it. And so you couldn't get a stock for an AK. And so I said, screw it. You know, I wanted to do the 1913 rear trunnion for a while, and I was just going to be doing them as an option. And then there was no option, and so I got to do a trunnion and a stock at the same time. You know, it was a good innovation. I just didn't want to have to do it right then, because all this innovation costs serious money that takes a while to pay back. And so, you know, I try to say no as much as I can and just do what we already do as well as we can. But yeah, nature is dictating that we just keep moving forward.
Are you doing a competition right now?
We will be in the next few minutes.
Okay. If I'm not out there, would you video it?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
That meant no.
That's like, yeah, whatever, motherfucker. Get your ass out here.
The head instructor doesn't have enough to do.
Okay, I'll try.
Hey, put your banana clips back in there.
Aaron, there's supposed to be another one of these.
So, James, talk about your first exposure to the AK-47.
I couldn't put my finger on the first time I touched one, but it was in the early 1990s. I mean, I can't remember not shooting one in the early 90s. I mean, back then, you know, it was when you could buy an SKS for $59 and things like that. So that is what made all the 7.62 by 39 flow into the country, was how inexpensive the SKSs were. And then all the you know, like the first SKS I bought the SKS, a 30-round mag, and a 1,440-round case of Chinese steel core ammo out the door for $200.
Damn.
And I thought the guy was ripping me off.
You're like, I'm paying too much for this.
Yeah. But I really can't remember, like, the first one that was in a class. It's just they've kind of always been around.
Mm-hmm.
They were kind of like just, you know, here and there. But that kind of that bookmark in 2002, like, before that, I don't think we ever had two AKs in a class at the same time. Then we went from 2002 to, say, 2012. There were times when just by chance it was completely AKs in the class, especially when 545 was cheap and available. So you know, it's ebbed and flowed, but it has found a homeostasis now. They're pretty even, but there are still times we have classes that are all ARs or all AKs. You know,
just by happenstance.
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm. Just
because you don't dictate in your
okay.
classes. You're just like, whatever.
Yeah, people like when AKs after 2002, all these guys would started having AK classes, and people would ask me like, "Hey, when are you going to start doing AK classes?" I go, "I've been doing it for 10 years. It's called fighting rifle."
Yeah.
You know, I don't do fighting Glock. You know, you bring whatever gun you got to you bring your gun to the class. I'll teach you how to shoot. I mean, back in the day, it was a lot of MP5s and FALs. You know, if it wasn't AR-15, and but I don't even know what the hell I was talking about. But anyway,
so your first exposure to the AK.
Yeah, and yeah, like I said, it just kind of that bookmark of 2002 kind of changed the whole world as far as AKs. It went from being the bad guy's gun and no really accessories available to now not only is it a good guy gun, it's the cool guy gun.
The cool guy, yeah.
Yeah.
You think we're going to see it in John Wick? You see John Wick run it in the next John Wick movie?
I know it's in the next John Wick movie.
I was going to say, if anybody knew
I ain't saying shit. No, I know. A friend of mine, Rock Galati, is the one that's doing the guns. You know,
I know Rock. Yeah.
So he's the one that's doing it. So
nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So I'll just tell you, for all of us guys that like those movies, and I do, you'll dig it.
Sweet.
And I am not one of those guys that watches a movie and goes, "Oh, that magazine doesn't hold 32 rounds." Like, I'm paying my money to not be in reality.
Yeah.
For a while.
That just adds to the not being in reality, right?
Yeah, get crazy. You know. Yeah.
I love it. What's as far as gun movies go, what's probably the most I guess, inaccurate gun movie that you've seen, but
Oh,
you
gosh.
still really enjoyed?
True Lies.
That's a good one. Yeah.
What kind of sick bitch takes the ice trays?
Is that the one that had Tom Arnold?
Yeah.
I love that one. That was a good one.
And then
Arnold.
James, there's that old, is it James Woods movie you showed me forever ago? It was maybe Emilio Estevez. They were all gun sight dudes. The inverse, the really good one.
No, you're talking about Way of the Gun.
That's what it was.
Yeah, James Woods wasn't in that one. That was Benicio del Toro and Ryan Phillippe. That's a real good gun movie.
Was it James Caan?
James Caan, yeah.
That's right.
He's an old gun sight guy, and all those old James Caan movies like Thief and all those are really good gun guy movies from back in the day. You know.
Yeah. What you said, Ryan Phillippe, Shooter. What do you think about that TV?
Yeah, I liked it. I like all those.
I thought it was
kind of
pretty
shows.
good. Yeah, I thought it was pretty good.
Like I said, I'm not trying to be in reality. You know, so I'm trying
It's
to.
escapism.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
Very cool. Are you into the Marvel shit at all?
Yeah, 100%. My whole life. Like from a little kid, I've been into Iron Man and Spider-Man. God, love it. Yeah.
I didn't know that about you.
The dude wears Mickey Mouse shirts unironically.
Unironically.
Okay? He's all in on the comic book and Disney stuff.
I wore a Mickey Mouse shirt to Sturgis, and this girl said, I don't think I'd have wore a Mickey Mouse shirt to Sturgis. I said, I don't think I'd fuck with the guy that wore a Mickey Mouse shirt to Sturgis.
Would be questioning him.
Yeah. Looping back around on the Ultimac, I've mentioned this maybe on the show before, but I've gotten to be really good friends with the guy that machines them in Moscow, Idaho, and the folks that run Ultimac are also named Keeney. It is a bizarre world.
And are you related?
We don't know.
You don't know?
No.
Well, see, you need to have a family tree
If they were in Tennessee, they would be.
Yeah. Yeah. You need to do a family tree like, what was the guy this time? Pierre, yeah. He's Lebanese. And he's got like.
He's from Lebanon, not Lebanon.
Not Lebanon. Lebanon, Tennessee.
Lebanon's in Tennessee.
Yeah. Just like Quebec. Quebec, Tennessee. It's not Quebec. It's Quebec. We get a common question on here from our listeners on the AK Corner. What's the ideal way to set up your AK? How do you run your AK?
The way that works.
Light, sight, sling in that order. Some kind of good white light, surefire. Some kind of good white light so you can identify what you're shooting. Some kind of optic, like a red dot, that it's a force multiplier. And then finally a sling. A sling is a holster to a rifle. So in that order, light, sight, sling.
Perfect.
Oh yeah, training.
Training is key.
Training is the only thing that you can buy that makes all of your guns better.
I'll agree with that.
And James will want to kill me for saying this, but I would rather somebody buy a Wasser and training than buy one of my guns and no training.
I was going to say that. I thought he'd kill me.
No, that's the truth. Like training is so much more critical than the gun.
Yeah, and training can be given as a gift too. So if you really love your loved ones, you can birthdays, holidays, Valentine's Day.
Well,
training makes a great gift.
Here's the funny thing: I grew up poor, like on welfare, poor. So as far as I know, we're the only training company that has a layaway.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
There you go.
So
Tactical response.
I get that struggle. I get it.
Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, that was no dig on Wasser. Like I've said on the show before, for the money, great value, and it will run.
Who knows what Wasser stands for?
I heard you say it the other day, but I did not know before that. Go ahead,
Andrew. No, come on, say.
It does. It stands for nothing.
No, it does. It does. It's William. What are the owners? What are their names?
Sutures, yeah.
Sutures, yeah. It's named after one of the kids.
Named after three.
It's like William Allen Suture, right? Yeah, rifle. Yeah. So it's named that, but it sounds like it would be some kind of comm block.
Right.
It fits in perfect. Same thing with Visca because it's named after one of the kids too.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's close. It's Vermont stamped, I think, Kalashnikov automatic, something
Is that
like
what
that.
it is?
Yep.
I thought it was named after one of the kids.
Maybe it is. The story I got from one of them guys was
The kid's name's Vermont.
Vermont.
We just make up stories.
Yeah.
Tell people all kinds of shit, and that's the truth.
I love it.
Honestly, the truth.
Just don't verify my stories. Just go with them. Don't fact check me at all.
Yeah, don't fact check me.
It's not a thing. Not a thing. Well, this has been fun. I know we need to get to the range here and go shoot because
Heck yeah.
your audience wants you there. But James, we appreciate you joining us.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll get you back on one of the real AK Corner shows.
Real?
When we've got an actual topic.
This is pretty real here. I mean, there's a lot of AK shit going on here.
This is real. I wish all our listeners could be here. And I've done some live feeds, so I hope you guys were able to check out our live
I'm
feeds.
glad all your listeners are not here. I know some of them. And you guys know who I'm talking about.
You know who you are. So, Lead Heads, until next month, the AK Corner, make sure you go and support all those that make this show possible. IWI US, check them out. Occam Defense Solutions, AK Corner. Seal 1, go check out Seal 1, clean, lube, protect. Mission First Tactical. And make sure you use the discount codes LEADHEAD, and you're going to get discounts at all those places, except for Occam.
Yeah, sorry. We wish we could, guys. We're just selling them as rock
But
bottom
if you
as
let
we
him
can
know
right
that
now.
you're a lead head, he'll throw a patch or a shirt in.
And a special love note.
All right, lead heads, that wrapped up part 1 of our interviews there at Royal Range USA for our AK Koncepts class that we did with 212 Training Group and Occam Defense Solutions. And really, please go support those that make this show possible. Use those discount codes that we've got set up for you at seal1.net. Use Leadhead, and at Mission First Tactical, you can use the code Leadhead there as well to get some awesome discounts from our sponsors. And most of them have discount codes set up for you. If you go to their website, just shoot me an email, talkinglett@gmail.com. Most of our sponsors and friends of the show have some special discounts just for you listeners. So part 2 coming up. Make sure you guys tune in. Don't miss it. It's going to be dropping soon after this episode. But until then, as always, keep your loved ones close and your firearms closer.